There's an uncomfortable truth about married women that many men never notice. Not because these women are weak, immoral, or looking to betray everything they've built, but because human nature is deeply vulnerable to temptation. No one says, "Today, I'll throw my life away." It starts much smaller than that. An innocent conversation, a lingering glance, a message that makes her heart beat just a little faster, because it didn't come from her husband. Psychologists have studied this pattern for decades. They call it the slow erosion of boundaries. One step at a time, one thought at a time, until one day she looks at herself and barely recognizes the person she's become. So why does this happen? Why do some married women become vulnerable to outside attention? And how do they justify it to themselves? That's what we're about to unpack. 1. The unspoken void. Why some married women seek external attention. A great marriage is a partnership. Without partnership, it cannot truly thrive. Helen Mirren. At its best, marriage is a bond strong enough to withstand time, stress, and temptation. But not every marriage stays strong forever. Some women, despite having taken vows and built a life, find themselves drawn to attention outside their marriage. And most of the time, it has very little to do with physical attraction. It's psychological. The biggest misunderstanding is assuming these women are looking for an escape. In reality, many of them are simply searching for something they've lost along the way. Human beings are wired for connection. And for many women, emotional intimacy is not optional. It's essential. In the early days of a relationship, that intimacy is everywhere. Late-night conversations, lingering looks, feeling deeply seen and chosen. It's intoxicating. But over time, routine creeps in. Deep conversations turn into schedules and to-do lists. Passion gives way to responsibility. Love becomes functional. And slowly, quietly, she starts to feel invisible. This is where danger begins. Renowned relationship psychologist Dr. John Gottman explains that the silent killer of relationships isn't conflict. It's indifference. When a woman no longer feels noticed, her subconscious begins searching for validation elsewhere, often without her even realizing it. As Mitch Albom once said, "People will do almost anything to avoid feeling lonely, even if it means losing themselves." A compliment from a stranger, a conversation with someone who actually listens, a moment where she feels interesting again. Suddenly, that small interaction feels like oxygen after years of emotional suffocation. Marriage brings stability, responsibility, and predictability. But psychology tells us that novelty fuels desire, a concept known as the Coolidge effect. Humans, both men and women, are naturally drawn to the excitement of the new and unfamiliar. When every day feels the same, when every interaction feels rehearsed, the smallest spark of something different can feel electric. Not because she doesn't love her husband, not because she's a bad person, but because she misses the feeling of being wanted. We are most alive when we are in love, but love isn't just about staying. It's about being chosen again and again. F. Scott Fitzgerald. When a woman feels pursued, when she feels desired, it awakens a version of herself she thought was gone. The confident, vibrant, attractive version. So, even without intending to cross a line, she may drift closer to it. Because in those moments, she feels alive again. Another often ignored factor is identity loss. After marriage, many women stop being seen as individuals and start being defined by roles: wife, mother, caretaker, supporter. The question shifts from, who am I, to, who am I for everyone else? Before marriage, she was a mystery. After marriage, she becomes a function. These roles are meaningful, but they can also feel confining. And when a woman no longer feels like her own person, she may seek moments that remind her she exists beyond her responsibilities. Sometimes, those moments arrive through another man. 2. The justification game. The mind will always find a reason to justify what the heart has already begun to want. No one wakes up one day and decides to cross the line. No one wakes up one morning and says, I think I'll betray my marriage today. That's not how it happens. When a married woman begins drifting into emotionally or physically risky behavior, it doesn't arrive all at once. There's no dramatic decision, no sudden switch. It's a slow, slippery process, one that begins quietly, long before anything visible ever happens. And it almost always starts in the mind. The truth is, guilt is a heavy burden. Most people can't live comfortably with it. So if someone can convince themselves that what they're doing isn't really wrong, they no longer have to carry that weight. That's where rationalization comes in. So how does it begin? How does the line start to blur? At first, everything feels harmless. It's just a little attention. What's the big deal? I'm just talking to him. It's not cheating. I'm just enjoying the moment. The human brain is incredibly skilled at protecting itself. When something feels good but clashes with our values, the mind looks for a way to make both coexist. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the discomfort we feel when our actions don't match our beliefs. And when that discomfort becomes too much, the mind bends reality to relieve it. As Richard Feynman once said, the easiest person to fool is yourself. So a woman who once saw herself as completely loyal begins playing subtle mental games. She minimizes her behavior. It's just flirting. I'd never actually do anything. She shifts responsibility. If my husband paid more attention to me, I wouldn't need this. She compartmentalizes. This has nothing to do with my marriage. This is separate. But here's the dangerous part. Every justification makes the next step easier. For many married women, the first betrayal isn't physical, it's emotional. And that's what makes it so hard to detect. Physical cheating has clear lines. Kissing, sleeping together, intimate touch. There's no confusion there. Emotional affairs are different. Late-night messages, conversations that go deeper than they should, sharing fears, frustrations, and vulnerabilities with another man instead of her husband. At first, she tells herself, it's only emotional. There's no harm in talking. But emotional intimacy is powerful. When a woman gives another man access to her inner world, her thoughts, her feelings, her emotional truth, she's already beginning to detach from her marriage. Cheating doesn't always start with the body. The moment secrets enter a relationship, the line has already been crossed. And once emotions are involved, physical boundaries rarely stay intact. The most dangerous justification. I deserve this. This is where things truly shift. At this stage, her actions no longer feel questionable. In her mind, they feel earned. I've sacrificed so much for this marriage. I deserve to feel good again. He's ignored me for years. Why should I keep caring? I've been faithful for so long, and it's gotten me nowhere. This is the point of no return. The emotional bond she's formed outside the marriage begins to feel more real than the marriage itself. Her mind reframes betrayal as fairness. Stepping over the line no longer feels like wrongdoing. It feels like justice. And once someone believes they're justified, very little can stop them. This is why married women can sometimes appear so vulnerable to temptation. Not because they're weak or immoral, but because the human mind is exceptionally good at rationalizing what feels good. It always starts small, tiny excuses, quiet justifications. But when left unchecked, those thoughts become actions. And once the line is crossed, there's no easy way back. 3. The breaking point. The chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they are too strong to be broken. Samuel Johnson. Every story has a moment where things become real. No more just toss and run answer, just talking. No more harmless flirting. No more mental gymnastics. The game stops being a game. Psychology calls this threshold theory, the idea that the hardest part isn't doing something wrong, it's doing it the first time. The first message she knows she shouldn't send. The first meetup that's framed as just friends. The first time his hand lingers, and she doesn't pull away. That's the moment everything changes. Because once it happens once, the second time is easier. And the third easier still. As Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. What once felt forbidden slowly begins to feel normal. And that's the most dangerous lie people tell themselves when they're already too far down the path to see it clearly anymore. I can stop whenever I want. That's what almost everyone tells themselves. But the truth is, once something triggers a strong emotional response, it stops being a choice and starts becoming an attachment. Neuroscience shows that romantic and sexual attraction light up the same brain pathways as addiction. The dopamine rush from a new connection feels intoxicating, like a hit of something she didn't even know she was missing. So even if she promises herself, this is the last time, she finds a reason to go back. Because at that point, it's no longer about the other man. It's about how she feels when she's with him. In the beginning, secrecy feels uncomfortable. The first hidden message, the first excuse, the first time her heart races when her husband casually asks, "Who are you texting?" There's guilt. There's fear. It feels wrong. But the human mind is disturbingly adaptable. Over time, guilt turns into strategy. She learns how to hide things better. She compartmentalizes so completely that the discomfort fades. Eventually, she doesn't just tell lies. She starts believing them. And that's when the spiral really begins. The longer the secret exists, the harder it becomes to escape it. She tells herself, "I'll end it soon. Next week, next month, after things calm down." But weeks turn into months. And by the time she realizes she's trapped in her own web, getting out feels impossible. Then comes the final mental shift. Her marriage is no longer her primary emotional bond. Her husband slowly becomes the other man. The real connection, the excitement, the intimacy, it's happening somewhere else. And at this stage, even if nothing physical has happened, her heart has already left the marriage. When that happens, there are only two endings. She gets caught, or she eventually walks away, unable to live a double life any longer. So why do some married women seem so vulnerable to temptation? Not because they wake up wanting to cheat, not because they don't care. It's because they're searching for a feeling they lost. And once they find it, walking away feels unbearable. Not because they don't love their husbands, but because they've convinced themselves that what they've rediscovered will never exist at home again. And once that belief settles in, nothing is ever the same. If you understand this truth, you gain something powerful: awareness, the ability to see what others overlook, to read between the lines, to recognize the quiet signals before they turn into something irreversible. And once you see the pattern clearly, you're never blind to it again.